Welcome to One-on-One. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. The boss is in the house. Welcome to County Executive Bob Culver. Welcome, Bob.
Good morning. How are you doing? Thank you.
So everywhere I go, people ask me the same question. Can you explain to me what's going on with Bob Culver and this county council? What do I tell them?
Well, there's an interpretation difference right now as far as the charter amendments that were changed. Now, what was said in the charter amendment said it's going to amend a certain charter number, section 315 and 413.
Now, the county charter is like our constitution. It's the blueprint for how we operate.
It's a very loose document in the sense of giving you guidance. It's not to mean every word is to be taken,
Right.
literally. So, anyhow, with that in mind, the charter was changed that no longer would there be any more department heads that had to be approved. It was just deputy directors and my director of administration and deputy director of administration. And I took that literally. That was what was published for the people to read. They voted on that. They didn't vote on what was their intent on the council's part, was that it was just an addition to that.
Right.
But what they saw, what the public saw, was the change that it was just going to be the deputy directors and those other sections. And so I read that literally, and that's what people voted on, and that's how I've interpreted it. So I did not send forward the names of the department heads to be approved. We had done it originally until I really understood what the charter amendment did. And in doing so, this is where all this has taken place. This has all got started.
This is the source.
This is the crux of the whole problem we're having.
This is the stone in the shoe that has created everything else.
Yes, yes it is. So honestly, I've offered to do arbitration. I've offered to do anything, sit down. Council leadership has not chose to sit down with me and even talk about it, discuss it. It's more or less, we're telling you the way it's going to go. And one thing that I find very, I should say, challenging is the fact that their council attorney and the county attorney that we have right now, Mr. Wilbur, is set up so that they read it as what the council intended. Mr. Wilbur is conflicted because he actually wrote the amendment that went into the budget and went into the paper and all that type of thing. The council attorney is there for special reasons. They're using him as the county attorney now, and that's against the charter. And so I feel like, here they are arguing about this. I really feel like if we could sit down, we could talk this out and just go ahead and let's say, all I'm asking for is let's just go back. This is my team. I've got a great team in place. They, of course, let Mr. Wilbur go as the county attorney and gave me 2 months to replace him. We have gotten the RFP ready to go out. We have saved $300,000 a year average for the last 4 years with Mr. Wilbur over top having an in-house attorney and benefits and that sort of thing. With that, I feel strong about keeping it a contractual type situation with whatever attorney is chosen. But they, of course, did not approve the deputy or the director of the finance department. This person has saved over $15 million for the county in the last 2 years. Very well qualified, more than qualified, and yet have given no reason for doing so. They've also said that she is to be dismissed. Well, they're under the merit system now. They changed everything by the merit system, and that was supposedly a mistake that they made that they never caught, that I caught, and they told me I was wrong until I finally brought it out to them again, and they realized the fact that I was right and that they're wrong. Everybody is merited now. There is no longer at will. Now, they've just passed the law again. They've redone the legislative bill, which takes 60 days to become in effect, where the charter did say that the department heads would be at will, and it's going to go back to that way. So,
right now, and this is a can of worms. There's all kinds of ways to explore this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing is, when you were running for election, you kind of declared the county lawyer's office, the office of law, is sort of a bureaucracy. They had an attorney and 2 deputies and some paralegals, spent a lot of money, and no one really knew exactly what they did. You were very familiar with that from being
Sure.
on the council and dealing with the attorney at the time. And you're like, I'm going to do this differently. We're just going to hire a guy. We're going to pay him by the hour. We can save a ton of money. And you did that, and Paul Wilbur was hired. They approved Paul Wilbur, but they sort of felt like Paul Wilbur was working for you and not them. So then they did a charter amendment where they were able to hire their own attorney. And that's kind of created kind of a mess in this thing.
Have you ever seen two attorneys agree on anything? I mean,
No.
But it's down to the county attorney. There's only one attorney that represents the county, and that is the county attorney of record, and that's Paul Wilbur. Asked why the reason was to dismiss Mr. Wilbur. We've got no reasons per se.
Right, no one's told me. I've tried to report that and I can't find out.
I was told that they did not agree with one of his decisions.
Yeah.
This is not the first attorney that they have dismissed because they didn't agree with their decisions. You may be well aware of the fact that the ethics chairman was an attorney that had been on for years, and very prominent attorney in Wycomico County. They did not agree with a decision that he made. John went to him and actually told him they would not approve him again, which is totally, that's
Right.
not even up to the council to decide as far as they have to do the approvals, but as far as putting their names forward and all, that's in my part. And for them to go tell that particular attorney that he was not going to be approved again was out of charter, out of code, out of everything.
Right.
The people chose by 70% an executive form of government. The executive's job is to run the day-to-day operations of the county. We make the decisions on that. We do all the contracts. Anything over a year has to be approved by the council. We do all that. Everything's taken back and forth. We have had several members of this council who has just not agreed with the executive form of government. My suggestion to them is put it on the ballot. If people do not want the executive form of government, then we'll go back to the administrator type form of government. We have 7 part-time council people. There is no way that they can run the county from their positions as part-time, every 2 weeks getting together and decide what's going to be done. As it is now, if I have to hire an attorney for labor, if I have to hire an attorney for bond counsel, whatever, I have to go before them. So I decide on Wednesday, the day after the council meeting, that this is what we've got to do. I've got to wait 2 weeks for that to come. I've been told, we could call around and get a special vote. You just don't deal with business like that. I mean, these are attorneys that are already approved, that have been doing work. I've hired no new attorney outside their scope that they've been doing work for the county for years. Kevin Karpinski, who is a legit attorney, does a lot of the labor laws problems that we have, that sort of thing. Lindsay Rader with Funk and Bolton, who does all the bond hearing. We have attorneys for a pension plan. We have attorneys for insurance plans, that type of thing. I mean, there's a lot of attorneys that take to make up a county's workforce, and it's a lot of work. So now we have to go before council to get approval to call any of those attorneys. So
when people ask me how the government works, and I say, Mr. Culver's sitting there in the stagecoach, he's got both hands on the reins, but the council president, in this case John Cannon, is sitting next to him, and occasionally he might reach over and want to touch one of the reins. That's how it's supposed to work. And I've been told, no, that's not it. And so I've tried the analogy of, all right, they're riding in the car together. Mr. Culver's driving, but Mr. Cannon has the map. No, that's not really it either. The feeling I get now is that both guys want to drive. He wants to drive just as much as you. He might even think he's a better driver. The council might think they're a better driver. I'm not sure it's because of a weakness on your part. I just think that they feel like that they're really important.
Well, they are important. I mean, I take no qualm with that. They're very important. I think it's more like a brake. They're pulling the brake on that cart instead of the reins. And it's just that everything is worked session to death. We can't do anything without going to 1 or 2 or 3 work sessions, and that's 6 weeks. And you just don't run a business like that. I'll be the first to tell you, my bedside manner leaves a lot to be desired sometimes, but that's not why people voted for me. They voted for me because I'm a businessman, and I've run the county the first 4 years like a business. We've not raised the taxes. We've saved money. Our budget this year was $3 million less than last year. I was able to fund all departments. The council only cut my budget by 0.6%.
Right.
0.6%. I mean, I should feel honored that that's all they could find that they wanted to cut out. And of that 0.6, that was $100,000. 15,000 of it came out from the Board of Elections, and the other 85,000 came out from my department.
It was very personal. It was a personal.
It was very
move on
personal.
their
The next day that someone goes out and says, "Well, it wasn't personal. It wasn't vindictive or anything." Bull. You know,
Right.
you don't go out and make a statement like that the next day when nobody have accused you of making it too personal.
Of all the things they could cut, though, to annoy you, they cut where it would annoy you the most.
Well, in my budget, and I'm going to work with it, don't get me wrong, but what they've cut, they didn't realize, they cut out what was going to be money that went towards noxious weeds. So Phragmites, Johnson grass, that type of thing that we had set aside. I will not deny the fact that some of the categories in the budget should be reworded. They were started years ago, and they've somehow or another evolved into something else. So cut out $25,000 out of our noxious weed program so we can no longer go along and take care of those kind of things. Cut out $20,000 in our community. It was called community, but it really was never used as that. It's like when we took on Conley Mill Road, that $20,000 went to pay the surveyors, it went to pay the appraisers, it went to pay everybody we needed to get that property so that we could take it over. It's a gift from that group.
Right.
And that has proved to be very beneficial to Wycomico County. That's going to be over $20 million worth of assets to Wycomico County for the dirt alone that we're saving out of there. So all that goes into running a business. So now I have to go before the council to ask for their permission. Can I borrow $20 to pay this guy to go do that? And it's like, you've squelched business altogether. That is not anywhere near the intention of the charter hiring as an executive form of government.
Now, the charter says that your department heads, and there's 10, 11 of them, 12 of them, are supposed to be approved by the council within 6 months of an election. You read the charter to say that that kind of provision has been wiped out. The council, on its own, went ahead and voted for the people that you already have in office, and 2 people they declined. They didn't vote on the HR director because you had promoted her to finance, so there's that issue, and the county attorney. Everyone else got approved, but you make the contention that it's my team. I can build the team as I want it, and they need to respect me on this.
Well, I do, and I respect the charter on that. I took all of them before the first time. I don't see where they've already been voted on. They need to be voted again. I mean, that's kind of redundant. You've already got the job in PAC 14 here. If you were doing bad, then someone would take you out of that position. But nobody's done anything wrong, and leave it to me to determine whether or not they've done something wrong. I have no problem letting go. I mean, let's be honest.
Right.
We've seen that. So the point is that if someone's doing wrong or they're in over their heads or something like that, I'll change it. I'll take care of that. But it's not the council. Again, 7 part-time people who do not know the day-to-day workings of what goes on. The letter we just got from Council President the other day talking about the fact we could still go to the bond market and we could still use the finance director for points that she could help on is totally just shows their lack of knowledge of what goes on, because you cannot go to the bond market without an attorney. The attorney signs all the paperwork down here. When Mr. Baker retired and Mr. Wilbur was hired, it took over 6 months of the 2 of them working together to bring Mr. Wilbur's office up to speed on what was open cases, what was that kind of stuff. We have over 400 open cases right now. That's anything from being sued by, a county employee, or being sued by someone who fell on the ice back in front of that, to letters that are just answering about leases and that type of thing. So, I mean, that just shows that they don't know what we have to go through to go there. And New York's very important. We've actually been told now by our broker, do not come to New York this year because of the political unrest that's going on down here. That's kind of embarrassing. It's a whole lot embarrassing because, because the council doesn't understand their position in the role of government, that we're being told by our broker it would not be good for us to go there this year.
You've told the school superintendent, Dr. Hanlon, Donna Hanlon, that Beaver Run is going to be put on the shelf. The reconstruction of Beaver Run will have to be held back for a year. It's like $7 million, $9 million. And that really got everyone's attention.
Well, that's the reality of what happens when you make these snap decisions like that. Just because you didn't agree with the attorney, then they have been training an internal auditor to take over the current internal auditor's place for over 2 years. And he's still been taking some classes. He's an excellent candidate, don't get me wrong. But that's 2 years of training. When you take over these positions, sometimes you need that kind of training. But they've given me 2 months to find an attorney. I've talked to several attorneys in Wycomico County. They're saying, no, we don't want it. Why would we want to put ourselves out for that and to be ridiculed by a council that doesn't take our word, doesn't listen to us or whatever? Anybody you talk to in Wycomico County will tell you that Paul Wilbur is one of the most upstanding, honorable people and a good attorney that there is in Wycomico County, and he knows governmental law inside and out. He's very cautious. You know, he's not a partier. You know,
Yeah, he's recognized as the best.
He's recognized as the best. I mean,
yeah, at that skill.
Because you don't agree with him is not why you let somebody go. Lord knows I wouldn't have an attorney now. You know, number of attorneys I've disagreed with over the years, but you know, that's how you go back and forth. And so I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in a lot of them. I'm very proud though of, you know, Bill McCain on the council.
You know,
he stood up
now
twice
again, you're a Republican, he's a Democrat, but he is your biggest defender right now. He seems to understand the function of the county executive.
I think he does understand the county executive position, but he also understands common sense. Why are we worrying about, you know, taking $85,000 out of the executive's budget when in fact we've got so many bigger things going on. We've got so much going on with the airport right now. We've got the water getting ready to come in this year. We've got the drone facility being built. We've got new buildings coming in, new FBOs that want to come in here. We've got Pirates Wharf. I mean, we should be very proud of Pirates Wharf.
Right.
Sat there for 22 years until finally I said, let's take this off the shelf and look at this. You know, there were some misunderstandings at first and people didn't know what we had intention. You know, we're a sounding board. We're a sponge trying to learn what people want. We had the presentation by Davis, Bowen, and Friedel the other night, and it went very well. People, you know, still some questions. You know, what are you going to do here? What are you going to do there? But overall, people really enjoyed it. I mean, it's going to be a low impact type park. There is going to be a boat ramp on this side of Wycomico, which has not been talked about for a while, and that's great. So it'll be basically for your runabouts, your ski boats up to maybe 25 foot, something like that, like a small center console.
The architects came up with a plan. There was a hearing this week, and it sounds like a really good plan.
People have really gone for it, and I'm tickled to death. You know, it's something. But again, 22 years, neither a council or a previous executive has ever taken this off the shelf to look at. It's just been out of sight, and I like taking those projects and bringing them forth. Nobody's ever looked at the airport before. You know, it's always been U.S. Air or Piedmont came in. Now it's American Airlines. You know, came in, they flew us to Baltimore, Philly. Look what we're getting ready to do now. We're getting ready to expand this airport. You know, with jobs there, not just the 2 or 3 people that are there that, you know, take care of the general aviation planes, but, you know, for several things. So I mean, that's good.
The airport was a burden forever. No one knew what to do with it. They had to fund it, but you picked it up and dusted it off and slapped it around and cleaned it up and recognized the potential there.
I feel like we did, and I'm very proud of that. And, you know, I've got a great team that wants to do these things. Wayne Strasburg is excellent. Weston Young is very smart young man, and I see a long future for him with the county government. And Wycomico County is lucky to have, you know, Weston in it. So, you know, it's just like that with my finance director, my planning and zoning director. They're all very good at what they do, and you know, I'm only the captain steering the ship. And that's all I need the rest of them to run this ship, but they do, and they do it on a day-to-day basis, and we get together regularly. You know, there's 3 or 4 departments that I specialize in. There's 3 or 4 that Wayne does, and several that Weston does. So it works very well for us. Now, another executive may have a different style, and that's totally up to them.
On the way over here, I ran into a developer who hasn't always agreed with you, and I said, you get to ask one question to Bob Culver today. What is it? He goes, I don't have a question. He goes, just make sure you compliment him. Thank him for fully funding education, for listening to Dr. Hanlon and them. Do you hear that a lot?
Not as much as I'd like to, but yes. I mean, a lot of people will come up to me, and again, I was at a little cocktail thing last night, and someone came up to me that was a straight Democrat, just as totally opposite as I am, and told me that he was proud of what I was doing, and he was even though he didn't support me, he liked what I was doing, and that meant a lot. It really did. I mean, it was a friend, but I mean, I know we're at polar opposites from the way we think, but I got a lot of times I get stopped in the grocery store. I'll get, you know, sometimes people kind of point like they know me, but they don't know me in my jeans and T-shirt as well as they do in a suit. So, but it's nice to hear. It really is. And then I have some come up to me and say they didn't like this or didn't like that decision, and that's okay. I mean, I'll try to talk to them and see if they understand everything as to why I made the decisions. Some I changed their minds, some I don't. Right. You know, but that's.
But I would argue you didn't fund the school board just because it would make you popular necessarily. You wouldn't make anyone happy, because you were really hard on them for a long time, for the first 3-4 years especially, very skeptical of the school board. But you seem to have come around and embraced and kind of gotten their vision now.
Well, let's just say I'm learning.
Or maybe they have a better vision now.
You know, I want everybody to do well. You know, Wycomico County does well when everybody does well. I want to get the graduation rate up. That was part of Dr. Hanlon's plan. Okay, there were several things that were brought at the same time. You know, we came forward with this $800,000 more. So it's a $2 million bump for us between maintenance of effort and what Dr. Hanlon wanted. And it was a big decision to make that or be able to keep on going with the buildings. Mardell School is a beautiful school. It's a beautiful location out there. The question lied in, for the last 2 years, it's always been $10 million that we could spend to get it up to right. And then this year it came in at $40 million.
Right.
I don't have $40 million. Next year I'm being told that the Kerwin Commission is going to charge me $2 million more, and that's going to be another set that I have to give. The state's going to give 2, we're going to give 2, and it's going to go last like that for I don't know how many years. So I've got a plan for that. I wanted to do well, but there was a matrix that was given that, you know, this is what we hope to reach in this time limit, teacher retention, graduation rate, people being able to excel in certain things, and I plan to keep them to that matrix that they said. You know, if I tell you I'm going to do such and such, then hold me to it. That's what I expect to do, and that's what I'm going to expect to do out of the Board of Education. But I'm willing to give them a try, just like I want people to give us some of our programs a try. So, but yes, no, I want very strong on education, and I've got a sister that's very strong on education. She's called me more than once and said, "What were you thinking?" You know?
Right. But your sister's a teacher.
My sister was a teacher. Yeah, she's retired now, but she's a teacher, and I respect her, and I respect all the teachers' opinions. You know, don't get me wrong, but everybody has a different angle they're coming from. And my ideal is, you know, I wanted to redo all the schools. I wanted nobody else has done a school every 2 years, and that, if you look at it, that's what basically we've done. But Beaver Run was supposed to start this year. So, you know, I'm very proud of those accomplishments, but at the same time, I don't like having to stop in the middle of something. I didn't like having to pull Beaver Run off right now, and I'm still working on a way of trying to make Beaver Run work. You know, I'll be honest with you, right now it's tough, but we're going to see what we can do.
Do you have a strategy for trying to walk out of this situation with the council, the derision that's going on, or is it the ball in their court, or do you want to get the public on your side? What can you do so the people in New York who are reading my stories and other stories have a better understanding of what's going on and a more positive vision of the organization of Wycomico?
My goal would be to, right now, sit down with the council, close doors, you know, forget about the sunshine law. We can record it if you want to record it, but sit down and just go over this and say, okay, this is what we need to do. Now, gentlemen, I think you've made a mistake here, whether you agree or not agree. You think I've made a mistake here. So let's just kind of cross these mistakes off. Where do we start from here? There's no reason that my team cannot stay in place where they are. They're very good. There's no reason that you can't go ahead and still override me and see certain factors of my department. But to aim constantly is wrong. And let me give you one more example of this too. And the finance director, Wayne, and myself went to see the auditing committee. We have an auditor, internal auditor, and they're run by a committee. We had felt for very serious thoughts that a lot of the audits were aimed towards the executive's administration, their purview and what we were doing. So we brought this to their attention. A conversation was had with the auditor. And the next day, we got a call from the auditor, wanted to sit down and talk.
So, wait, and just to be able to understand, the county council controls the auditing process in the county. So it's a checks and balances thing. That check is in their domain.
Somewhat. Now, it is both executive. They have to answer to both executive and council on that sense. But
the auditor sits there at the table with them in their meetings. So it certainly looks like that he's a legislative person.
Which never happened, and he should not be, because that never happened until Mr. Kramer retired, and they put him up there. But he's supposed to be very independent. You know, he does answer to certain things from the council, and the council selects him. So anyhow, in talking, the auditor admitted that yes, he had been weaponized to more or less look at things that the executive's office was doing, and trying to make us look bad.
So he told that to the auditing committee.
He told that to Wayne and I the next day, and Laura Hurley were there. You know, so I said, "Okay, let's bury this hatchet and go on." We've got.
Now, I can see that to a degree because you guys really control the spending.
We control the spending, yes. So anything that was done, was this inventory, or we think that inventory was looking bad or something, tell me how to correct it. I'm here to make the county be the best that it can be. So if you've got a suggestion, don't just tell me I'm wrong. Tell me how you fix it.
Right.
Because that's what you do. That's
right. Don't bring a problem. Bring a
solution with you. That's why you make the big bucks. Yeah.
Right.
So let's go with that.
Right.
And it is working well now. It's working much better after just kind of laying the cards on the table and calling it the way we had to. We did. And I give both Michelle and Wayne a lot of credit for that meeting and confronting the necessary people that we had to. So. And the auditing committee, the chairman of that, was more than polite and kind to us. So,
you mentioned Bill McCain, and in my cynical way to him, I said, "Well, you must want to be county executive someday because you're trying to protect the county executive's powers." He goes, "No, I just want to do the right thing." But at the same time, it was just sort of ironic that he would be your biggest defender based on just party affiliation alone.
Well, and I like to see that we don't see party affiliation to a certain extent. Sometimes we do, but basically, I feel like that going without the party affiliation is better. I mean, because we're sitting down man to man. I can sit here and disagree with you, which is real easy.
Which we have, yeah.
Which we have. But the point is, as much as we disagree, we've got the ability to sit down and talk it out. And that's where Bill and I feel that I have an advantage over. The rest of them have packed up their toys and gone home. They don't want to play in the sandbox, and so they packed up their toys, and they'll just yell from the front door of the house and then shut the door. So.
What's next? Where do you want us all to be a year from now?
A year from now, I would like to be very strong in Wycomico County's economic development. I'm strong on our infrastructure. I hope to have the state legislature knowing what we're going to go with the current commission, knowing what we've got to do is this $15 an hour. I mean, we're not done with that argument yet.
You get the minimum wage thing that's affecting the salaries for all the county employees.
Well, it affects that, but it affects everybody's business in Wycomico County. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the youth employment is pretty much out the window. I mean, no longer can you get a job at minimum wage and have a young man learn how to job or a young lady to take on a job, because people, why hire someone that you've got to train when in fact you can go out and get an adult and do that. So hope to be able to come somewhere like maybe $12.50 an hour instead of $15 an hour for
right.
them, and we could live with that, or $13 an hour. So that anything like that would be good. Infrastructure, being strong on schools, construction, trying to make them the best schools we can possibly get. Work on that. Keeping our roads. We're still doing 20% of our roads a year. So in 5 years, I mean, inevitably, whatever road I do, it's the wrong one.
But the roads up there are nice. They're fine.
I did learn a long time ago, I can't satisfy everybody, but I've tried to keep, my word in the fact that we're doing 20% of the roads a year. We're doing as much blacktop as we can, but we're still having to slurry and we're still having to stone to try to protect the roadbed so we can keep on from there.
Sure.
But it's a challenge. It's a challenge with the money. Volunteer fire companies. I want to do the best by the volunteer fire companies that I can.
Yeah, that's an issue that's building up. That's going to hit you.
It is an issue, and it's going to come to a plate probably sooner than later. I mean, right now we've got meetings. We offer a $10,000 death benefit for the volunteer firemen, and while that seemed to be the best avenue to take, now the firemen are upset because they've got to pay taxes on that death benefit. And it's like, that's IRS rules. That's not our rules. And
right.
If we could give it to them $10,000 in a case of family loss or something like that, we'd be more than happy to. But that's not our law. That's not our rules. So we've got to abide by them. So we're working on different plans now to try to take care of that.
You still enjoy the job with all this?
Oh, great! I love it because it's every day's a challenge. And I leave right after this. I'm leaving to go with Mako for 2-day meetings up in Aberdeen. So I'm looking forward to that.
It's great to get in a room with people who have all the same problems you do. Because you think your problems are unique and you realize that maybe they're not at all.
I'm in good shape, but and let me tell you how good a shape that we're in too. Again, as I told you, our finance director has saved us $15 million in insurance benefits and how we did all that over the last 2 years. We are also going to be one of the only counties in the state of Maryland fully funded OPEB by next year. That's a big deal.
Right.
That's a real big deal. I mean, you take the Board of Education, they're $155 million in the hole. Worcester County is $300 million in the hole. No other county is fully funded in Wycomico County. We have the highest savings ratio compared to budget of anybody in the state. That's why we've gotten such a great rating in New York.
Right.
Every year they talk about the management team. They love what we're doing, our conservative approach, and we're not spending it until we know we need it. We've got this year we bonded for the sheriff's office. And we've got that going on. That's getting ready to start now.
Right, that's been delayed too.
Well, no, it hasn't been.
Well, it wasn't really far enough along to say it was coming that soon. So,
well, the money was actually borrowed
Right.
last year, so that's actually going to start. What delayed that was we had a company that had done the study,
it's a design thing more
design
than,
thing, and another company has been selected to be the architects on it. So,
Right.
the other company, Crosby, was very good, and they did an excellent job. But the people that chose the contracts, the RFP, when it went out, chose a different company to do it. So that's taken a little bit of time. So we're backing up on that. So we still hope to start on that by fall to a certain extent, and get the groundwork done and everything else, and be on construction for next year. I mean,
He's our county executive. He's Bob Culver. He's the boss. He's in the house, and we're thrilled that he was here today. Thanks for being here, Bob.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. Another edition of One on One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One on One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.